Let's take a look at exponents in the order of operations. First, let's talk a little bit about exponents. Give you an example of one. This right here is an example of an exponent. It's a number that's smaller, it's kind of set up like that. Now, I'm pretty sure all books agree this is an exponent. Some books will also refer to this as a power. And then I saw one book, weird as it seems, they referenced this entire item, the 3 to the second power. They referred that all to as power. But everybody agrees that this definitely is an exponent. Now, the word where some people call it a power, this is read as 3 squared. So 3 squared, or 3 to the second power. So that's where that comes from. Now, that one has a special name, the squared. If I have this one here, this has a special name too. And these because these appear fairly often. This is cubed, so 5 cubed. It's also referred to as 5 to the third power. Now, when you go beyond that, 2 to the fourth power, there is no special name for it that I know of. But these are the ones you have. Now, what does it mean? Well, if I have 3 squared, for example, that exponent tells me how many times I'll multiply 3 times itself. So 3 squared would be 3 times 3, or 9. 5 to the third, there's exponent's 3, so we're going to have 3 5s. Well, 5 times 5 is 25, times another 5 is 125. And 2 to the fourth, since exponent's 4, then we'll have 4 2's. 2 times 2 is 4, times another 2 is 8, times another 2 is 16. So that's what an exponent does. Now we've got a note that goes along with exponents. The exponent only affects what is to its immediate left unless there is parentheses. Then it affects everything inside the parentheses. I wish I could write a little bit faster. Okay, then it affects everything inside the parentheses. What does that mean? Well, if we had this problem here, negative 2 squared, the exponent only affects what's to its immediate left. So that second power is only going to affect the 2. It doesn't affect the negative. So negative stays out in front, and we rewrite 2 squared as 2 times 2, which then gives us negative 4. Now compare that against, if I do want the negative to be affected, I would put parentheses around like this. Exponent only affects what's to its immediate left unless there's parentheses, and here's parentheses, so it affects everything inside the parentheses. So this would become negative 2 times negative 2, which would give us, say, positive 4. So that's what that note is saying. Well, let's look at some problems on exponents. This one we already saw, but, well. Hopefully all of these aren't the same. Okay, 2 to the fourth. Again, the instructions say evaluate each exponential expression. And again, the 4 tells us we're going to have 4 2's. So we'll multiply 2 times itself 4 times, which we've already said is 16. On this one, we have negative 3 to the third. Well, remember what I said. The exponent only affects what's to its immediate left unless there's parentheses, and it affects everything inside the parentheses. So this would be negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. Again, we have three of them because of the third power. Well, negative 3 times negative 3 is a positive 9. And I'll bring down that negative 3. And 9 times negative 3 gives us negative 27. So those will be our answers. This one we got negative 2 to the fourth. And now remember what I said. Exponent only affects what's to its immediate left unless there's parentheses. So this fourth power is not going to affect the negative. That just stays out in front. And 2 to the fourth means we got 4 2's. Well, we've already seen that 4 2's is 16, so our answer is negative 16. And the last one for the exponents, we got negative 2/3 to the second power. Now what's to its immediate left here is parentheses, so it's going to affect everything inside the parentheses. So this is going to become negative 2/3 times negative 2/3. Multiply top parts together. Negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4, and the bottom parts, 3 times 3 gives you 9. So our answer will be 4/9. Now we have something called the order of operations. This is the what we do first in a problem. I always give this example in class. My wife doesn't like it, but when I cook frozen pizza, I'm like a robot. You know, the instructions say preheat oven to 425. I preheat oven, put the pizza back in the freezer. The little dinger goes off, telling me the oven's ready. I take the pizza out, put it on a cookie sheet, follow the instructions to the letter. I open up the oven and put the cookie sheet inside there. And then I close it, set timer. Timer goes off and immediately comes out. Those are the steps that it takes to make a pizza. Well, my wife, she puts a pizza in the oven, turns pizza on. When smoke comes out, or she remembers it, she pulls the pizza out. It's kind of burnt. She's got a different way of doing pizza. Well, in math, we have one set way, and you have to follow these steps. You can't choose your own path in this regard, unless you just want to get the round answer. Now we got a way to help us remember what to do. It's please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And the first letter of each of these words will kind of guide us on what to do. This first one says, do what is inside the parentheses. Now, that also includes brackets, and that also includes absolute value. Now, in some cases, doing what's inside of the parentheses will get rid of the parentheses. Some cases it won't. And in some cases, doing what's inside brackets get rid of brackets. Some cases won't. The absolute value will always disappear once you do what's inside, because that's what the absolute value does. It makes whatever's inside positive. Now, this does not say get rid of the parentheses. Realize that. It just says do what's inside of them. The E stands for exponents. So you do the exponents next. Now these two are taken together. And this says multiply or divide as you encounter. So as you encounter either one from left to right. Now this does not mean go through and do all the multiplication first, then do all the division. You'll get the wrong answer sometimes when you do that. It says do either one as you encounter from left to right. And these two kind of go together too, though this one isn't necessarily where you have to follow this. You can go through and do all your addition first, then do all your subtraction. You still get the right answer. But I like it to be consistent with the one above it. So we're going to add or subtract as you encounter either one from left to right. Now sometimes we won't follow this order of operations. Sometimes our steps have their own little madness to solving a problem. But in general, if you run across a math problem and you're not sure where to begin, go back to your order of operations. It'll guide you a huge amount of times. Yeah, start a new page here. I'm trying to think if I need to save this. I guess I don't need to save it. Pretty sure I have it out there. Okay, let's look at this problem. 10 divided by 5 minus 7 times 2. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Please do what's inside parentheses. There is no parentheses. Excuse. Do exponents next. Don't have any exponents. My dear. Multiplication divisions, I can counter either one from left to right. Here's my first multiplication or division. 10 divided by 5 gives us 2, and I'll bring everything else down. Okay, I'm still on the multiplication division. The only other multiplication division we have is right here. So I'll do that. 7 times 2 is 14. Now Aunt Sally, addition or subtraction is the encounter either one from left to right. And here's 2 minus 14, which gives us negative 12. And that's our answer. Let's see, 50 minus 4 times 2 minus 8 divided by 4. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Please, there's no parentheses, brackets, or absolute value. Excuse, there's no exponents. My dear, multiplication division. Well, here's a multiplication. I'm going to look at it from left to right. I'm just not willy-nilly picking one. Well, 4 times 2 is 8, and everything else carries down. Okay, I'm still on the multiplication division part, so the only other one I have is this one right here. 8 divided by 4 gives us 2. Well, now on to Aunt Sally, addition and subtraction. Well, here's our first addition and subtraction. 50 minus 8 gives us 42. And still on the Aunt Sally part, addition, subtraction. Here's the other one. 42 minus 2 gives us 40. And that'd be our answer. I'll grab a drink here. Okay, let's look at our next one. See, 5 minus 2, and then a bracket, 8 minus negative 2 squared. Okay, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Please, we got brackets here, so we're going to do what's inside the brackets first. There's parentheses inside the brackets, but there's nothing to do inside of the parentheses, so we don't have to do that. Again, we're following the order of operations inside here. You know, there's no parentheses. Excuse, exponents. Well, we have an exponent here. We got negative 2 to the second power. Everything else carries down. Negative 2 to the second power, negative 2 times negative 2 gives us a positive 4. Now I'm still doing what's inside the brackets. And this last thing to do inside the brackets is addition and subtraction. 8 minus 4. Which gives us 4. Now, there's nothing left to do inside the brackets. Now, you notice the brackets are still there. Again, it doesn't say get rid of the brackets. It says do what's inside of them. Okay. Let's see. Please excuse. There's no exponents. My dear, multiplication division. Well, here's a multiplication. We got negative 2 times 4. That gives us negative 8. And Aunt Sally, addition and subtraction. 5 minus 8 gives us negative 3. And that's our answer. Now this is a popular one for people to miss on a test because they want to do the 5 minus 2. It looks so tempting up here. It should be 3. But again, you have to follow your order of operations. Excuse me. Let's look at another one. 10 minus 3, negative 2 to the third power, minus 30 divided by 5. I did a book review one time for an author, and this particular author, she had indicated in there that the order of operations was to get rid of the parentheses. And it's like, how can somebody who teaches math actually believe this? It's like, not everybody graduating top of their class, I guess. But it's specifically do what's inside the parentheses. So when I look at this one, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. There's parentheses, but there's nothing to do inside the parentheses. So, excuse, exponents. Well, here's negative 2 to the third. Now again, it doesn't affect the negative 3. It wouldn't affect the negative except there's parentheses here. So we got negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, and that gives us a negative 8. And everything else carries down. Okay. There's no more exponents. Please excuse my dear. Multiplication division from left to right. Well, here's my first multiplication division from left to right. Negative 3 times negative 8 gives us a positive 24. And everything else carries down. Still on the multiplication division part, here's division. So let's do that. So we've got 10 plus 24 minus 30 divided by 5 is 6. And Sally, addition and subtraction. Well, here's our first addition and subtraction. 10 plus 24 is 34. And still on the Aunt Sally addition and subtraction part. 34 minus 6 gives us 28. Let's got another one. Negative 3, and then 5 minus 9. Plus 4 squared minus 3 squared. And this shows how to handle the absolute value. The absolute value is a little bit different. We're actually going to do what's inside the absolute value, but we'll also get rid of the absolute value. So, excuse me. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Do what's inside the absolute value. Here's 5 minus 9, which gives us negative 4. Everything else carries down. Now I said I'm going to get rid of the absolute value. Remember, the only purpose of absolute value is to make whatever's inside positive. So absolute value of negative 4 gives us a positive 4. Now notice I kept the parentheses around this because this negative 3 in front of it means multiplication. So I can't lose track of that. Okay. Excuse. Exponents. Well, here's our first exponent. So I'm going to have 4 squared, which gives me 16. Now, if you combine steps, that's fine if you feel pretty good about what you're doing. If you're getting the wrong answer by combining steps, then do it a little piece at a time like I'm showing you here. Okay, still on the exponents part. Here's another exponent. Now remember, the exponent only affects what's to its immediate left, so in this case, it does not affect the negative. It only affects the 3. So 3 squared, 3 times 3 is 9. Okay. Please excuse my dear. Multiplication division. Well, here's a multiplication. Negative 3 times 4 gives us negative 12, and everything else carries down. Aunt Sally, addition and subtraction. Well, my first one is right here. Negative 12 plus 16 gives us 4. Still doing the Aunt Sally part, addition and subtraction. So 4 minus 9 gives us negative 5. And let's look at our next problem. This one's a fraction. We do fractions a little bit differently, which is why I chose to show you one. Okay. 5 minus 8, 2 plus 1. over 3 minus 6 minus negative 4 squared. Okay, when you got a fraction, you do the top part completely, you do the bottom part completely, then you handle the fraction. You know, normally we might think, well, you do division before you do, you know, addition and subtraction. But again, you have to do the top part completely and the bottom part completely. It's kind of like the please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. The please part, the top of the fraction and the bottom fraction are considered like parentheses type of deal. Okay, so look at the top part. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. We got brackets. We're going to do what's inside the brackets. Within the brackets, we have parentheses. So we're going to do those first. You do the inner ones first. Now down below, we're also going to follow the please excuse my dear Aunt Sally down here. And we got parentheses, but there's nothing to do inside the parentheses. So excuse, exponents. We got a negative 4 squared. Okay, so up on top, 4 carries down. We got 5 minus 8. 2 plus 1 is 3. And I keep it inside of parentheses because this is 8 next to a parentheses indicates multiplication. So this should be 8 times 3. Down below, this is parentheses, so it affects everything inside the parentheses. We got negative 4 times negative 4, which gives us a positive 16. Okay, back up on top. We're still doing what's inside the brackets. Please excuse, no exponents. My dear, there's multiplication. 8 times 3. Now back to the bottom, there's no more exponents. There's no multiplication division, so we go on to Aunt Sally. Addition and subtraction. So up on top, we got 4 times 5 minus 8 times 3 is 24. And down below, 3 minus 6 gives us negative 3. And the negative 16 carries along. Okay, back up on top. We're still doing what's inside the brackets, and there's only one thing left, so we'll do that. And then down below is only one thing left there. Well, 5 minus 24 is negative 19. And negative 3, negative 16 is negative 19. Now I could finish the top part, take 4 times that, but I see something that jumps out at me here. We have 4 times negative 19, and we have negative 19 down here. Those negative 19s are going to cancel, and that'll give us 4. Technically, I went away from my dear Aunt Sally a little bit there. I should have done top part completely, but I knew what was going to happen anyway, so I could do that. So I cheated. I didn't do my order of operations. Let's take a look at this one. 7 plus 2 times 2 to the 4th. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. There's no parentheses. Excuse. There is an exponent. 2 to the 4th. So I got 7 plus 2 times 16. My dear. Multiplication division. So do 2 times 16. That gives us 32. Aunt Sally. Addition and subtraction. 7 plus 32 gives us 39. And one last one. We have 3 to the 4th minus 2 times 4 minus 2 squared minus 5 squared. Okay, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Do what's inside the parentheses. Here we got 4 minus 2. Everything else carries down. 4 minus 2 is 2. Okay, please, there's nothing left to do inside parentheses. Excuse, exponents. Well, here's our first exponent, 3 to the 4th. 3 times 3 is 9, times another 3 is 27, times another 3 is 81. Everything else carries down. So on the excuse part, exponents, here's another exponent. So this becomes 81 minus 2, and 2 squared is 4. Now notice I kept it inside of parentheses because we still have to keep this multiplication here. This is 2 times that. Still on the excuse part, I have another exponent. So I got 81 minus 2 times 4 minus. The exponent only affects what's to its immediate left, doesn't affect the negative. So this is 5 squared, which is 25. Okay, no more exponents. My dear, multiplication division. Here's a multiplication. So we got 2 times 4, which is 8. Now, some people may look at that and say, well, why don't you do negative 2 times 4? You could. Negative 2 times 4 is still negative 8, so it doesn't matter how you do that. Okay, no more multiplication division, so Aunt Sally. 81 minus 8. What's that, 73? And then last, Aunt Sally part, addition, subtraction. 73 minus 25, it's too early in the morning to add numbers, so I don't see my calculator anywhere handy. See, 73 minus 25 goes to 6, and this is 13, so it gives us 48. Yeah, 48. And that's our answer. And that's actually the end of that lesson, too, so I guess I'm ready to stop the recorder.